Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
A Time for True show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard, you don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart, yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for Truth show. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, and it's a pleasure to have you back with us. And today's segment is actually something very important because it deals with someone who actually gave her life. I wouldn't say gave her life or donated her life, but dedicated. That's a better word, I think. Dedicated her life to civil rights, to education, and to changing this world. And Lord knows the world needs some changing. And, you know, today's show is going to be very special because it deals with her, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, and her great-great-grandniece, Jereleen Hollimon-Miller. And so we're going to get started with the show because we have so much to cover. And Buddha, if you put up the mayor's pictures up on the screen, I'd like to introduce Mayor Jereleen Holliman-Miller of Maysville, South Carolina. There you see her amongst those tall guys, those athletic guys, and her husband over there, Ed, to the left. She's the great-grandniece of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, and she's continued the Bethune legacy of human rights and educational service with her husband, Ed Miller. They founded the Bethune Family Educational Programs and the Twin Cities Outreach Ministries. Her familial ancestor, Dr. Bethune, was a renowned educator, really historical, and a civil rights trailblazer, having advised numerous United States presidents and leading to the founding of the Bethune-Cookman University in Florida, and was named director of the National Youth Administration's Division of Negro Affairs by President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the first African-American woman tapped to lead a federal agency division. Mayor Miller is an undergrad and master's degrees in early childhood education, both obtained in New York City. She's the author of some very interesting children's books. The Mighty Hugo Comes to Town, and Dr. Bethune's Children's Authors. She's built the Dr. Bethune Nature Trail. She's authored the South Carolina DMV license plate, historical license plate, honoring Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, and created the Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Birthday Festival. And it's really my honor to have her on the show today. There you see her with Bobby Hunter, you know, up on the screen there. And too many people to name. But let's welcome her live to A Time for Truth show, Buddha. Let's bring her up on the screen. Welcome, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here today.
Well, thank you for taking time. I know you're a busy lady. You're involved in a lot of activities, and so I want to use your time wisely, and I know people will have a lot to gain from listening to you. So I wanted to ask you first, as a young woman, what were your goals? What were your dreams?
Oh, I had so many dreams when I was young, and you just had to pick one or two or three. But trying to get something to make something out of nothing, I guess, to follow a road that probably was not leading anywhere. I think I wanted to be a teacher at one time, and wanted to be a police officer at one time. So I was just running down a rabbit hole because I did go to school. I went to John Jay, and I stayed there for like 3 months because I wanted to go into law enforcement. But it was many things that was going on that I wanted to do. But God has a way about correcting and putting you on the right path, putting a light under my feet and a lamp on my path. So I followed God's direction, and now I'm here in Maysville. So this is where He put me, in town of Maysville, my birthplace, and the birthplace of Dr. McLeod Bethune. And it seems as though I'm following in her footsteps because I can see similar things that she had chartered, and not to my doing, but there's a lot of correlation and things that she has done in her life, and I see myself doing similar things.
Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. And you know what? So the viewers can be well oriented. Engineer, let's put on the video that we have so that we can orient the viewers to the life of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. Here we go with the video.
Mary McLeod Bethune was an extraordinary American, a pioneer and a champion for the advancement of African Americans. Drawing from her experience as a teacher, Bethune opened the Daytona Normal and Industrial Institute in 1904, focusing on the schooling of black girls who had little opportunity for education. She continued building the school until its merger with the Cookman Institute for Men to become the Bethune-Cookman College, and was fully accredited in 1943. In addition to being an educator and an organizer, Miss Bethune was also a political activist. She was the first African American woman to be involved in the White House, assisting Presidents Calvin Coolidge, Herbert Hoover, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Harry Truman. Mary McLeod Bethune was elected president of the National Association of Colored Women in 1924, and later went on to bring together black women from many different organizations, founding the National Council of Negro Women, and served as its president from 1935 until 19.
Well, I could have had the video run much longer because she accomplished so many things, but I wanted to just give an introduction so that you could actually give more vivid and, from your experience, what was it like and what has it been like for you to have her as your great aunt?
Her to walk in her shoes, that was really, there were big shoes to walk behind, and to learn all of the many roads that she traveled is mind-boggling, to tell you the truth. You would think you know this about her, you've heard this and you heard that, but you only touch the iceberg when you come to Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune aunt. And it's just mind-boggling that she existed at a time There was so many things going on that she was able to walk her way through this forest and achieve as much as she did to make a difference. And today, she's still, her name still is being told of so many great things that she accomplished in her life. So it's a big thing. It really is a big thing for me.
Well, I really congratulate you and your family history and actually your heritage. And, I remember from the very first time I met you and I met your husband, Ed, and you're really special people. You really care about people. And I guess it answers this question, but I want to ask you anyway. What inspired you to run for the mayor's office and become involved in politics?
That's a tall question. um, Coming back home, and I never dreamed that I would come back to Maysville, because being that the town is a cotton town, a rural town in South Carolina, and didn't really offer anything much to strive for, to look forward in life to. So moving to New York City, you've been exposed to so many things, and to think to come back home, you would not have thought about this. But when you see a town that has not really progressed beyond from the beginning, you want to make a difference, to bring something back home. I guess you could say that you have to be in the right place and at the right time. And and being in the position as the mayor, that's the only way you can make something happen in a town that has been, how would you say it, not progressed for many, many years.
Makes a lot of sense. I saw that when I was looking over your background and what you've done and accomplished, that you are an author, and I see that you're very interested in young children and their rearing, their education, guiding them the right path. And I think you authored two books, probably more than two books, but tell us a little bit about those books that you actually wrote.
Oh, certainly, I'd love to. The first book was The Mighty Hugo Comes to Town. Now, you don't have to think long about the Hurricane Hugo that happened in 89. And it just happenstance that I wrote the book. It just was a dream. And I guess, you have to think about my Aunt Mary McLeod Bethune. She was a dreamer. And you could say it probably running in the family since the book came about from a dream. And from the dream, I wrote The Mighty Hugo Comes to Town. And it turned out to be my bestseller here in South Carolina. It allowed me to visit the schools throughout the state of South Carolina, as well as many other states, and just to share a children's book of a hurricane and how the devastation of a hurricane can cause to one and change their lives around. But try to make it where as kids can get involved with it and learn more about the hurricane story. This is the first book that I wrote, along with this is the second book that came along. I did not write this one. This is the children authors, Dr. Bethune children's author book. And this came about because after visiting the schools, telling the students about the mighty Hugo comes to town and Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune being from the town of Maysville, um, this was a way to get the kids to participate in her life and to learn more about her and to come and visit her hometown, which is the town of Maysville. And hopefully they could learn something about the journey that she took and walk in her footsteps from 4 miles that she had to take every day to get an education. And she had this burning desire and hope that she could make a difference in the life of her people. And if children could understand that journey that she took, basically, that's basically what we were looking for.
Well, I think it's very important because a lot of times in life, especially when you're young, you don't necessarily know how to go about something. And it's a good thing that you gave them a little view on, like, okay, this is what she did, this is what happened. And because a lot of people don't think they can accomplish it, they think, well, what am I going to do? Look at where I'm from. Or, I grew up in a little small town in Connecticut. And like you said, my town also, when I went back to it, it never progressed in time. When I went back to it, I said, wow, this is the same as when I was in junior high school, and it never progressed. And it was kind of eerie when I went back. It was like I was going in a movie, going back in time. So I understand totally what you're saying, and which makes what you're doing is so important because you're bringing people forward out of that time, out of that level to a higher level. So I want to ask you a question because I see you really did a lot of work with young children. What was like your purpose, or what were you singing with young children, or was it something with you? Why was it that you were involved in that, with the writing, with the young children, with their education? What inspired you into that?
I guess because of my major early childhood education, that was the targeted market that I was trying to aim toward, and bring the young children. You have to nurture them into forming their way of learning and feeding them like you feed them food. You have to take them on a journey. And I wanted to take them on this journey with me, with Mary McLeod Bethune, because she was from the town of Maysville. And being that they only learned of her in the book, and only being that the book only have just a small snippet of her life. And I wanted them to try to come out of that little small part and look outside of the box and see the person that she was, that she took nothing and made something. She came from the cotton field and had a burning desire to have more, to learn more, and not only for herself, but for others as well. And just whatever you can feed to the kids, and didn't really expect them to all get on board, but if I could have inspired one, maybe two, I had accomplished something.
That's beautiful. I was going to ask you is, there's a number of events that you actually have accomplished to honor her, but I want to ask you specifically about the statue of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, and because I think, what was it, about a year ago or so that it was brought into Washington, D.C. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. before it came to Washington, D.C., the sculptor was Nilder. I forgot her last name, but she's from Italy, and
Uh-huh.
she was commissioned to um, construct the structure, statue for Dr. Bethune. And she went with Michelangelo, the white marble that she used for the
Uh-huh.
statue. And it was completed, and it came first to Daytona Beach, Florida, not to the university, but nearby the university. And from the university, they brought it to the town of Maysville. So it left from where her last departed from, and where she is entered there, and they brought her back home for the last time, the town of Maysville. And it just was a day that you really have to take a lot in, because you didn't expect something of that grand to come to Maysville. But she deserved everything that was bestowed upon her. She's done so much for her race of people, and not only her race of people, from mankind. So she left her footprint in the sand. And yeah, we enjoyed her journey going to Washington, D.C., because we were a part of it. They were only going to invite 75 folks around the country. And Ed and I was fortunate to have two of the 75 tickets because of the COVID. And that's all they would allow to witness her being seated in Statuary Hall. And that was in June, July of 2022.
Well, congratulations. I had wanted to go, but I just couldn't get myself free to go down and see it. But as you were telling the story, it's interesting because I'm a very spiritual guy, and I feel that sometimes the symbols that we have and the events that we have, that somehow that human being, I don't know, is there somehow, and you can feel them there. I can almost feel her in this show that you and I are doing tonight, and I'm getting a little tingling now from her, I guess. And it's a very interesting thing, because human beings like her, as you said, they change things for the world, because we know we're mankind, and that's the way the world goes forward. We have problems, but every family has problems, and I don't see any family, regardless of where they come from, that doesn't have problems. So it would be asking a lot to have different people not have problems. So I think we have to be more tolerant of each other. But I wanted to ask you something, is tell us about, because as the mayor, I think you also have another mission, which is you want to bring about a thriving economy by creating literacy and education, that I think you do with your husband, Ed. So tell us a little bit about what you do with that.
Well, with education, you have to really bring the education to the children. Most days they're in school, stuck in a classroom, and we want to give them another room that they can come and learn in a fun way. And Dr. Bethune Learning Center and Art Gallery, we have African Americans from the state of South Carolina that most folks, young children, have never studied or don't know anything about. So we're trying to bring it close to home and have them to come and learn about these figures that have impact not just on the South Carolina, but the world. We have right from the town of Maysville so many notable um, folks that came from Maysville, and I, look at it as they walked in the footstep of Dr. Bethune. She has been our idol and a very good idol for the town of Maysville. So in varied professions, they've got athletes, you have educators, we have doctors, we have, um, the list can go on and on and on. But there are a lot that we want to expose the kids to, and we just don't want them to be locked into a box. So the Learning Center, along with the museum, we want to tell the story of the history of the town of Maysville from the beginning, and tell how the town really was really in its heyday. It was I had a slogan that I had. What, I can't remember the slogan right now, but the town was one of a thriving town back in the early 1900s. Maysville was a force to be reckoned with. So we want to keep the history in its proper perspective and learn from the history.
Makes a lot of sense. And, I saw the pictures at the beginning of the show with your former Indiana Pacer forward, Dale Davis, with a Globetrotter, Robert Hunter, those other big guys that you had there with you. So I can see that you're really going in that direction. We're running to the end of the show, but I wanted to ask you, because, of your great aunt, because of what you're doing, because of what your husband Ed is doing, what statement would you like to leave our viewers on what you'd like to see happen in our country?
I would like to see harmony, first of all. And I would like for everyone to take a step back and come from where you at and see what your brothers and sisters, what they're going through, and just pause. If you can just pause for a second, because I know I cannot walk in another person's shoe, but I can hopefully feel another person's pain. Today we are suffering a lot of things that is unnecessary. If we can just pause or take a deep breath and not react.
I think, you know what? Those are very sound words to take a look. And, one thing I want to do at the end of this show, we've run out of time, but there's a great man who recently passed away, a Harlem Globetrotter from Savannah, Georgia, Gator Rivers. And, I met him a number of times, a great man. And I want to take a moment, even though we're into the show, I think it's appropriate with the show that we've had. Gator, wherever you are, we love you. Thank you for all the people you made happy. And may you be in eternal peace.
Amen.
And for those of you watching, let's heed the words of the Mayor Jereleen Hollimon-Miller, and her great aunt, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, and Harlem Globetrotter Gator Rivers. Let's take a step back. Let's see that we can accomplish more together. Let's make a new world. Have a good night.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet